Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn, and welcome to part 2, or chapter 2. It'll be a book perhaps with many chapters, of removing some pasture spruce. The first time I did this, that tree ended up there, the first tree that I took down in the first video, because it was all punky. Nothing good for lumber. There's the stump there. The second tree I cut down was much better. Relatively solid wood, all solid wood. So I got 3 logs, 2 16-footers and 1 10-footer. That stump is right there, and it fell that away. So the next one is right nearby, and it's this beauty right here. I have sort of cleared a path. It may take out the tree there, may take out a tree or two over there, but I figured I would let the tree do that rather than me cut it down ahead of time, because it's possible the tree may not damage them when it comes down. But I did clear out a path here with some trees that were probably not any good anyhow, but would likely be taken down. So as you can see, this one looks pretty ugly, very similar to the first one I took down, which had just rotted wood in it. So I don't have a lot of hope for this, but this tree's going to come down anyhow. It may not be valuable for anything, and it's interrupting the growth of stuff around it. There's a lot of fir trees that are real spindly, have not had a lot of light. So get rid of this will give these better trees a chance to grow a bit better. So my plan is to fell it that way, somewhere in that opening, and we'll just see how it goes. So I've got the notch cut. I cut off some of these bumps. Some of these are due to a knot, like this one's just a heel over knot. That I cut these branches several years ago just so I could get around here, not to try to improve the quality of the tree. A bit late for that. But some of these just appear to be gross. But I was pleasantly surprised so far. This wood actually appears to be rather sound. I didn't cut the levelest notch, so my back cut I had to adjust to match it, so the back cut's not level. I think the lean is in my favor. Looking at it, if there's any lean, it does go that way, where I want it to fall into that opening. But I did put a wedge in there after I started the cut, just to make sure it doesn't fall back. Alright, so I'll set you up and watch it fall. I talked about this a little bit in my first video, which is red spruce versus white spruce. This is white spruce. A couple ways to tell the difference is, although this one's not that pungent, white spruce will have a real cat urine taste to it. Smell to it. Never tasted cat urine. The other things is the cones are more cylindrical. On red spruce, they'll be more egg-shaped. So these are sort of long and skinny. That might be a little bit more like a red spruce type cone. Red spruce is a bit more desirable, but they're very equivalent. So if you didn't watch the first video, my purpose in cutting this is lumber for my own use. I intend to have this cut for 3x7, which will be floor joists, exposed floor joists. I realize that there'll be several of them that will have too many knots, and the structural integrity will be compromised. So I realize when I cut this, I'm going to have to throw some out and not use them. But there's no other use for these. No sawmill is going to buy a tree like that. It could be used for decorative purposes. You could cut it, say, 2 inches and make probably a nice looking tabletop, things like that. Anyhow, there's my hinge. Look how fast this is growing, just like the other ones. White spruce likes a lot of light. They are not as shade tolerant as red spruce, and they take advantage of that light. They grow huge limbs, they grow way out, they grow fat, and until there's no more sunlight, they'll continue to grow those lower branches, and they don't fall off. What they call self-pruning. Fir, for instance, does much better at self-pruning. You know, these branches died off long ago, and these little branches will eventually fall off. You can see a lot of them have done that on their own. So that's called self-pruning. So one of the advantages of having forests that are, you know, somewhat stocked with trees is that you force the trees to grow straight, and the species that do self-prune will do that. White pine does that a little bit. Red spruce does it better than white spruce. So anyhow, for now, I'll clean this up. It does look like sound wood. It might be that little yellowish, might be a little bit punky, but boy, the rest of it looks nice. You can see here is growing at about probably over an inch in diameter per year during sort of its heyday. It slowed down a little bit. You can see here, maybe you can't, but the growth rings here, instead of being a half inch, a quarter to a half inch apart, are more like a 1/16 or an 1/8 inch apart. So the tree's growing much more slowly. It's probably not near its end of life. Both spruces will grow for more than 200 years, but it was probably the light. You know, we had other trees growing around it, fir trees. So I think it was just the lack of light that was slowing down its growth. It probably would continue to grow. The top that we looked at just a bit ago looked fairly healthy. All right, so we'll limb this up. This will take me forever, and see what I can get for logs out of it. Well, that's what it looks like naked, down to the stem. It takes a long time to cut, because even though I'm cutting, say, a 2-inch branch, I have to cut like a 6 or 8 inch diameter to get the sort of the base of that, so I don't end up with something like this. I'll trim some more of these off. But this is what these branch base looks like. It's all solid wood, and actually decent solid knots. Hopefully they'll get small enough inside where there won't be much of a structural concern with the 3x7s. So I don't think I'm not going to be able to take anything beyond this burl here. It's the diameter small. It might be a foot there, but it's so crooked I'm not going to get any straight wood out of it. So from here to the base is only about 20 feet. So it looks like I'll just get one 16-footer. So I'm going to trim some more of the knot burls, or the branch burls off, whatever they're called. Cut it to 16 feet, and I will probably be able to haul it right there, right where my tractor is, right on top of those other ones. And my plan is, when things dry out, say probably not much before mid-May, come out here with my log trailer and pick them up, because I'm going to put them all roadside, all the ones that I cut. It looks like a midwinter wonderland, but boy, spring has been rearing its head for the last month. It's been warm, the ground is completely thawed. We had a couple cold nights. We had a really blustery day yesterday, dropped about 3 or 4 inches of snow, and we're supposed to get another foot tomorrow. This is the end of March. But that's going to go away quickly, because the temperature goes right back up to the 40s and 50s. So it doesn't mean that logging season is back. Driving out here, I didn't sink much into the field, but you could tell that really was just maybe not even an inch of frozen crust on the top of the field. And in the woods here, it's just wherever there was a puddle, there's still a puddle. All right, let's clean this up and be done with this one and look for the next one. So the top's all cut up. Still looks good. Well, I guess good compared to what I was thinking it might look like. It's not a good log, but hopefully it serves my purpose. Anyhow, we can see the collateral damage that was done. Somehow that little tree there came out completely unscathed. Between these 3 pasture spruce, one there, I think the other one's covered up by the top of this tree right there, and this one. This guy wasn't getting a whole lot of light. It wasn't growing a lot, maybe 4 to 6 inches a year, but now with the additional light it should really take off. Yeah, the red maple, I don't care much about that. I'll take that down. This one here, I was worried it might come down. It looks like it bent it over a bit. I mean, some of these thick branches leaned hard against it. You can see the scrub marks. But I'm guessing that tree will be fine. It does have a bit of a lean. You probably can't see it well on camera. This one here has a much more obvious lean. That one's actually split at the bottom. I'll take that one down. So these other little ones here will probably not amount to much. Some of these that you can see the growth on top is probably at 10 inches or more. Those will still be good trees to leave. But this area is being managed for northern or eastern white cedar. So there's cedar there. There's a clump there. I got to clean some of these up. I really should just have 1 cedar tree per root ball. And that one there, I'll take that little one to the right down at some point. The cedar can survive just fine. They do well in the accompaniment of spruce and fir. Red maple, poplar, not so much. And being shaded by a non-valuable tree is not good either. So these cedar will have a bit more light now. Alright, I've got my cable hooked up. So while I'm out here with the chainsaw, before I go back to my tractor, I will take down that leaner there and that little red maple. Just cut it up to become part of the coarse woody debris. So I'll call that a 13-inch log. So this is the international, quarter-inch international rule. 13-inch log, 16 foot's 115 board feet. So 115. And that's my goal, 2,000. So that's what the 3 other logs that I got, which are underneath there. Let's go find another one. This is the only example I have of sort of a pasture spruce in the making. It's not a good example, but it's the only one I have. Not a good example for 2 reasons. One, it's red spruce, so these branches are not really getting real huge, and they've not retained their needles, I think, like a white spruce is more apt to do. But you can see the shape and how the branches just continue to grow out to grab the light. And the other thing is, I don't think this is a real healthy tree. This has been here for at least 20 years, so it may be as old as some of the ones we've been cutting down, but obviously not nearly as big, not nearly as tall. But this is what a lot of those pasture spruce sort of look like in their younger years. And then other firs and other stuff started growing around them. So there are 3 others in this immediate area where I'm standing. One is here. Not nearly as big and not nearly as bad. In fact, none of these 3 that we'll look at here are as ugly looking as the last one. And this one's not interrupting other tree growth as much as some cedar there, a cedar behind it, and the cedar to the right. So there's that one, and easy to lay that down right here in sort of a little open area. I'll probably take these birch down just like I did that. It was sort of leaning over the same way. These are gray birch. They're barely good for firewood. Another one is right here, and this one is obviously impacting the growth of that cedar. You can see the cedar sort of veered off to the left there, trying to get sunlight. So that'll be a good one to take down. Again, not nearly as ugly, but still probably sawmills would frown upon buying that. And this one here, which is a little bit more ugly, more branches, not nearly as big as the branches of the tree we just took down. These probably are only about an inch, inch and a half in diameter. Some over here might be 2 inches. So there is my orange tractor. So there's a road. The other thing I need to consider is how to take them out. I have another road over here. In fact, there's a twin, just beyond those twin spruce there. There's probably another 2 candidates, but that is clearly closer to the road that goes over that way. But I'm thinking all 3 of these much easier to just bring out this way. I seem to be a bit closer, and it looks to be a bit more open. And then the question is there a benefit to taking any of these 3 down first? Second, you know, what order? I'm thinking taking that one closest to the road down last, because if I don't, then I'll probably have to drag some of these over top of the slash, which can be problematic. It generally is not a big deal. I think I'll take this one down first, and I can probably follow this one right where we are, but that would, yeah, then I'd either impact that fir or the cedar if I did that. The other option is to lay it down that way and then drag it butt first out. That looks to be the better option. But then I'll have to snake it through those trees without rubbing too hard on them. But in any case, this one's going to come down first. So I cleaned up the area around it, and I am going to drop it that way. I cut some of these swells off. Some of these swells are around branches. This one had a tiny branch, but this is like that, I think. So, interesting. I don't know what causes those. So there's a couple decent young fir trees that may be damaged, but maybe it won't. We'll see. I want to stay away from the cedar here. That's really it. And then you can see my tractor there. I think I'll be able to weave it through the trees there without damaging anything. Might have left the hinge just a bit too thick on that one. It's like 1.5 inches, 2 inches. But that's fine, because what I can do, maybe minimize the damage over there, is to drag it off the stump rather than having it fall all to the ground with the heavier weight, you know, towards the butt end of the tree. So we did, this bent a little bit, the cedar, but it came back. This red maple, which is probably in part trying to hold that up, is bent, but I don't care about the red maple. Oh, look at that. And this is, I should have pointed this out before I cut it, but this is red spruce. The bark looks different. It's more elongated and it's darker. This one is still a rather young tree, I think. Yeah. But these scales will turn out to be more rounded rather than elongated, and the bark itself is just lighter. Probably why I get the name white versus red, because that looks reddish and that looks whitish. Alright, so I'll cut the base of that off. Look how fast. All these white spruce grew really fast until the last maybe 10 or 15 years. And then try to weave a cable through there and pull it off the stump. Well, that should be good enough so I can limit and figure out what I have for logs available. Turned out to be a pretty nice tree. It's probably borderline whether I would feel comfortable sending this to a sawmill or not, or whether they would buy it from me. Down low, the knots are pretty small and scattered. When you get up high, they get a bit thicker, more numerous and larger. So the butt log probably would be fine. Any further logs might not be good commercially. But for me, it's fine. I got a 16-footer. There's my mark. And a 10-footer. Because I'm looking for 3x7s. I really need at least 8-inch diameter on the top. And even that's probably marginal. But take what I can get. There's the rest of it. Before I leave here, I'll just chop this up, into 3 or 4 foot pieces so that it decomposes quicker. Oh, look at that. Little fir survived. But this was a healthy tree, even though it wasn't growing that much in recent years. I'm trying to smell that. Yeah, it's got that pungent smell. The needles are quite long compared to red spruce, and we do have those sort of cylinder-shaped cones. There's the very top of it. And it was growing. I mean, that last year growth was probably a foot. So less healthy trees generally would just grow an inch or two a year in height. So we did not do any damage. The top probably ended up hanging up there somewhere. So I was able to drag it back. So there's a cedar. So that is the focus of the stand that I'm in now as far as silviculture or management. Over here, I'm not going to get them this time around, and these are also questionable. Sort of twin spruce. I think they're white spruce, but again, they're not quite as ugly as some of them because they grew next to each other. There's really very little in the way of branches between the two, so at least one side of each log would be pretty small knots, if not free. So again, this is one that's probably questionable. Here's another one that is clearly not a commercial grade tree, but I'll take it. And my road is right there, so if I do take these two, and I know I'll take that one, I will certainly take it from that road right there, so handy. So I spaced my roads about 300 feet apart, or less, because the cable on my winch is about 160 feet, I think. So theoretically, I should be able to grab any tree from either side of the road, no matter where the tree is. So I'm gonna grab this tree, I'm gonna haul it. You can see through the greenery my tractor's over there, but actually sort of the opening to the road is to the right there. So I'm gonna drag this out a little bit further, and then I'll probably relocate my tractor and then pull it the other direction. And at the same time, there's that one, and then that one there you probably cannot see, but it's hidden there, hidden back there, the other pasture spruce that we'll get. Probably last, the one closest to the road will take last. Drag this one out, then we'll work on that one. So with this one, since I do have that opening, I do have the option of felling it this way, but I think what had happened is some of those branches might catch on that cedar and either scrape the bark or bend it over. I don't think it would break it, but it might towards the top. So I think the safest thing to do is still to fell it that way. I'll take down this little red maple. Hopefully I can split between that young fir and this one here. There's no sense damaging those, if I can help it. Well, let's clean this up and cut her down. That one fell down nicely. That's a nice tree. This one, now that I can see the top is a little bit disfigured, but it's probably still a good tree. I did better on the hinge this time. It was about an inch and a quarter. Look how fast that was growing. Again, same sort of thing. Growth slowed down significantly. But nice healthy tree. Looks like I'll get at least a straight 16-footer. Beyond that, I may not get anything else. So, same deal. Let's clean it up and see what we got. Oh, similar to that other tree, a decent 16-foot log, just for this little cut mark. And then a squiggly 10-foot, which is probably just about maybe 9 inches on the top end. So, there's the other tree. Lots of branches. Lots of open space now. And this one, maybe a little less branches, at least bigger ones, but open space. When I do more of the sort of the weeding, if you will, because silviculture is sort of like weeding in a garden, I will take down that maple because it's interrupting the primary species, which is that white cedar. So there's another, this is a red spruce. Again, you can see sort of the difference. It does have some of the big branches. It probably grew all alone. quite a while in this pasture before some of the other trees grew up around it. But the branches may be as numerous, they're just not as big. You can make out the furrows. They're not so much the round plates, but more the elongated ones. And the bark is redder. I may take that one down as well, because look at right beside it is this nice straight cedar trying to grow amongst the branches. That would actually probably be a nice one to take down. But for now, I've got these 2 logs cut to length and marked, you know, for the 10 versus the 16 footers. So I'll drag those out probably right where the tractor is. I'll turn it about 90 degrees so the winch is facing the right direction. Get those roadside. Well, I'm not sure what you saw of that. If anything, the camera decided to take a dive. But you saw I used the snatch block just to redirect it. I wasn't so concerned about this, but I didn't want to damage. Although now that I look at it, the top is the top is no good. Yeah, looks like the top was busted off. Maybe got whipped by that tree coming down. So, oh well. That generally means it'll have a double top or some deformity that will limit its value as a log in the future. I did not see that until just now. Anyhow, so you saw me redirect that. This is a self-releasing snatch block. So it was designed to do exactly what you saw, which is hit that little tab and then come off the pulley and then go straight back. Okay, so those are roadside. One decided to do a 90-degree turn there. That's fine. I'll probably just manhandle it back. It's fine to be that way. It's just it'll likely roll into the road. So, got to decide about that spruce right there, which is the one we just talked about. I think I will take it down. It's a matter of how I pull it out. And then finally get to the one that drew us here, which is that one right there. Glad I had it, because I placed to secure my snatch block to. All right, so I've cleaned around this red spruce. Plan to drop it that way. I've took down those three little red maples, and there's the stump to the first tree we took down, the stump to the second tree. I'll fell it this way, and we'll see. I'll probably have to cut the log to length out here because it's going to be too long, I think, to weave out that way without other trees getting in the way. All right, well, I'll do the best I can. Maybe steer it off this way as much as I can to minimize the impact of that branch. See how it goes. Well, the fall didn't go at all like I wanted it to. It was actually twisting the wrong way. I had altered my notch a bit, hoping it would twist this way when it came down. But it did not, because it got hung up on those trees, which sort of overcame the physics of wanting to dip down there to the right. But this seemed to be no worse for the wear. I'm glad. It's a nice looking tree, nice and straight. And this looks like a nice log, so limb it up and then figure out how I can get it out that way when it's like perpendicular to the direction I want to go. So a couple things here are noteworthy to talk about. One is it is a nice straight log. As far as measuring it out, that's a 16-foot log to there. I don't have enough for another 16-foot, and I have enough for a 10-foot, but it really is only a 7-inch diameter at the top. So I could do 2 10s to get 20 feet. I'd cut it about here. But I don't like the looks of this. There's a bunch of knots all together. I'm sure that would be a weak spot in any lumber. So I'm just going to sacrifice the rest of this tree. Just take the 16-foot log. I'll cut up the rest and leave it here. That'll make it easy to get out, easier. I'll probably still finagle a bit because I don't want to injure that cedar. So what I might do is grab it on the butt end and then let it bump against that red maple, which eventually I'll take down anyhow, and make the corner to go that way. So I did not see this double top. This would limit the value of this tree as a log in the future, because it would, right to here is 27 feet. So it's that 16-foot log and the 10-foot log. Beyond here, it's probably, you might get a small log out of here in several years. But I guess another reason why I'm glad I took this down. The other thing, which is a good opportunity to review here, is the difference in cones. So what I have here, this is white spruce and red spruce. So it's not a huge difference, but the red spruce is more egg-shaped, larger in diameter, and actually shorter than the white spruce, which is more cylindrical for the cones. There's not a huge difference in the needles. The red spruce, sometimes I think their needles are generally shorter than white spruce. Red spruce, white spruce. In this particular case, they're about the same, but there is a range that they normally grow, so that is certainly not a definitive factor. Okay, so I'm going to cut the rest of the tops up here. Just let it be on the ground. It'll rot, become nutrients. The other thing I've mentioned in some of my cedar silviculture videos is for seed reproduction of cedar. Cedar can reproduce two different ways. One is seed, and another is called layering, which is when another tree will grow up from the root of a parent tree. But sexual reproduction, which is the seed, for cedar, they really do best when the seeds fall on decaying material. It doesn't dry out and it provides all sort of nutrients. Where other species are fine with mineral soil, they don't necessarily need to germinate in rotting material. So all this woody matter, when it rots, probably 5-10 years down the road, to be really punky and almost soil-like before it becomes good bedding. But that's what this will be, so that these nice cedars can reproduce. So there's my lone 16-foot log, and that's where I'm going to drag it. So the plan involves two things that I hope will work in my favor. One is I've got this cable wrapped around here, so when I pull on it, it should roll it up over here. I don't think that'll be much of an issue. And then I'm hoping it'll either hit that rock, that's a big rock. Eventually, I'm guessing it'll really hit the red maple tree and then pivot. So it'll probably hit the tree about here. So it'll swing over here and there's plenty of room. It shouldn't hit anything else. And I should be able to just take it out straight and put it on top of those other logs. But we turn our attention to the last tree, which will be this one, and I'm going to fall it right on top of that pile of slash. That'll put the do it to it for this chapter. So stay tuned again for more pasture spruce harvesting. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it.